Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Today, Tim and I are talking about people pleasing. This is such a big topic. It's a topic of conversation in my sessions with clients and ones that I have in my personal life too with people. It's something that so many of us deal with. We kind of make ourselves quiet when we don't agree or we don't want to go along with something because we want to please the other person. And I think that it's something that you all, the listener or the watcher, would probably appreciate because I'm sure that you relate to it because so many of us do.
So we're
Yeah.
coming to this from what point of view? From people pleasing, not necessarily a good thing every time? All the
Well,
time?
it's about boundaries, and the angle that I'm talking about it today is from what I hear clients say to me, what people, friends, and family members have said to me, and really from this could be a therapist and it could be a coaching perspective, how I would have you think about it differently. Okay. So this is kind of a master class in how to move out of people pleasing
Okay.
because it really does just kind of ail people. People pleasing can feel like you've lost your voice or you don't have a voice. Your opinion doesn't matter. You have thoughts, you have opinions, you have feelings and emotions around a situation, but you keep quiet because of the other person. It can feel sometimes like a power imbalance. My daughter last week was just talking to me about something with work and being stuck between two different departments of what she wants to specialize in her line of work, and thought she was going in one direction, but now has had experience in another department and they really like her. And the two different departments are sort of at odds with each other. And she said to me, she calls me coming home from work and she's like, I don't know what to do. I really like this new department. I think I might want to work in that area. I might want to specialize in that area. And she's like, oh, but I don't know what to do, mom. She's like, I'm such a people pleaser. And I know it's going to make the old department mad. So here we go again. I mean, and I didn't.
So that's in the back of her head as part of the process of like what to do.
Right. And
Yeah.
I don't really think of her so much as a people pleaser. I'm
Right.
like, you are? I don't think of you that way. She's no, I don't want to make them mad. And it made it worse because she went back and very kind of subtly was talking to the first department that she had worked in and kind of made some hintings to them that she was interested in this other department. And they said to her, you can't go over there. We're going to be really mad at you if you go over there. We're going to talk about you behind your back. They said that to her, kind of just threatened her. And, you know, for a people pleaser, which she
Stop
just
it.
told, yeah.
You working at like a middle school? Like what's up with that?
And these are highly educated individuals. I know.
Come on
I
now.
know. And that's when she said, I'm a people pleaser. I don't
Yeah.
want them to be mad at me. And I said to her, like I say to all of my clients, and I say to my kids all the time, it's none of your business what people say about you behind your back. I'll repeat that. It's none of your business what people say about you behind your back. You're not responsible for their thoughts. Their thoughts and their feelings and their opinions of you are theirs. And that guy said, we're going to talk about you behind your back. I think because they like her so much and they don't want her to go to the other department. And at the same time, so be it. She's got to take care of herself. But
Sure.
if you're a people pleaser, that's a really hard thing to hear.
That's a dilemma.
Yeah. She was like,
Yeah.
oh, I'm just like cowering. I'm getting very small on the inside. So I had to kind of coach her through that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're going to go through the different kind of themes of what I hear from my clients over the years. And I'm just going to coach y'all up a little bit on how you might move out of that. The first one I hear all the time is, I can't say no. I mean, I just can't say no to them. They're going to be disappointed in me. And that really is about you learning how to set boundaries for yourself, learning to say no and taking it in small increments and looking at what's best for me. It's imperative that you look at what's best for me. And sometimes what's best for you is saying no. I did last week on social media, I talked about this quite a bit of, if you know that you're burning the candle at both ends, you know that you really can't stand participating in this event, or, you know, it's not good for you to be around certain people because they're toxic for you. And you have gone the past because you think that others expect it of you. So you put yourself aside for others. You've got to learn to start saying no, because you come home and you feel depleted, or you're in a bad mood, or you're all anxious and up in your head worrying what people are thinking about you. You got to say no.
Yeah.
Okay. So that's really important. And that's all about setting boundaries for yourself.
That's potentially a tough one. I mean, because
They're all tough.
I see a lot of people that straddle that fence because they think about what they should do or what
And we're going to get into that.
they think they should do,
Yes, the
right?
shoulds, the shoulds.
Yeah.
So,
Versus
yeah.
what I need to do or want to do, right? So,
I mean, I was a big people pleaser. I've had a lot of people pleasing in me. I've worked really hard to move out of it in my life. I have had to learn to practice what I preach to clients over all these years, and I'm pretty good about it. I think that both of us, I mean, I think you have people pleasing tendencies. I see you sometimes just, I'm going to go with the flow. I'm going to go along with the crowd. I'm going to go along with, sometimes I think you're doing it to keep the peace, but sometimes I think it might be people pleasing. You can, I don't want to speak for you, but that's just
yeah.
sometimes how I see
I
you
you
in
think you're
situations.
talking like casually, potentially.
Sometimes, yeah.
Like with friendships or
Sometimes at work,
family
you'll
or
talk about things, and I wonder if that's people pleasing.
yeah. I there probably are moments of people pleasing at work where it's like
You go
do
against like your
you
better judgment or what you really want to do to please others.
yeah, or you
Yeah.
don't want to be that one voice that
Yes.
stands up
You don't want to
and
stand
says,
out.
"Hey, you know what?
Yes.
Let's not do that because of this, this, and this."
Because you're going to look like I'm going to be a pain in the ass. I don't want to be the annoying ones. I'm just
Yeah,
going to go along to get along, right?
yeah,
But I think that this is really important. And I didn't think I'd be talking about this on this episode. And I have to, because listening to you and listening to myself, where does that come from? We're socialized that way. Most of us are socialized that way. We're raised that way. I was told, and you were too, like, have good manners, be a good kid, be obedient. You were much more of an obedient kid than I was. I was a little bit more of a wild child, but I just rebelled against it. But I was always told to be obedient, watch your conduct. And when you're socialized that way, I was told to act like a lady, you be ladylike. I think that's very American, North American. I think a lot of it, I don't know about other cultures as much. I think it's very white Anglo-Saxon, like white. I don't know. Is it white people? I don't know. Other people who listen to the podcast who are not white can talk about how was this a value in their culture, because I know it was a value in ours. You were very much the obedient boy through much of your life until you probably got into your 30s. And I did want to please people around me to a certain extent.
yeah. I think the baseline for both of us it came from a place of calm. Like, don't be the one that ripples the water, right?
Yeah.
For others,
So you're not going to say no to things.
so you're not going to say no to things, but there are times where it's like regardless of that, you still need to.
You absolutely
You
have to.
have to.
You have to. Those are those boundaries of what am I available for? What am I not available for? I think I said this even last week. What am I here for? What am I not here for? You got to take care of yourself or you will burn out. And then you get grumpy and in a bad mood and surly, and you just, because you're ignoring what your inner self needs. Okay. So that's really important. So I can't say no, or they'll just be disappointed in me, or I'm just going to go along to get along to keep the peace. Another one that I hear is, if I don't do this perfectly, they're going to think less of me. I need to be perfect. No, no, no. There's no perfection here. You know, the people around you, some of us did grow up in families where perfectionism was something that was a value, whether it be overt or covertly stated. We picked up on the idea that we need to be perfect, you need to be high achieving. That's a lot of cultures. You need to do very well, you need to have great grades. I got to be perfect. Well, geez, trying to please your parents all the time with grades, with academics, with sports, extracurricular activities. That is a rough way to live.
Well, it's an impossibility. I mean, you
Right.
can't do that. No one ever has done that.
Right.
So there's just no way you're going to pull that off.
It's really starting to adopt the thinking of being, air quote, good enough, that I'm a good enough daughter, I'm a good enough wife, I'm a good enough student, I'm a good enough employee. And I know that for many people, that just is not sufficient. No, 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 no. Well, you must go in that direction, because the flip side of that is perfectionism, which is going to take you down as the months and years go by. With self compassion and with acceptance, I think it's important. An activity could be for you to write down the times when you didn't do something perfectly and when did it lead to negative outcomes. You're probably not going to have many examples of that. Like, what is perfection? It's 100% perfect, no mistakes, no foibles, no flaws, nothing. Well, you're not going to have many examples of when you did it perfectly. Okay. But let's say you can think of one or two. What were the negative outcomes?
Right. I don't know. It's hard to say. It depends on the scenario, I suppose.
You
But
are of value and you are worthy of respect, not being perfect.
yeah.
So that's a you problem or a me problem. That's about me.
Well, that's what I was going to ask you. So, is this more about the person feeling the need to be perfect inside of their own head, like this is them with them, or is this the environment?
It's
Is
both.
this set up by like your workplace or your friend group or your like? Is there?
Oh, it can be all of that.
Yeah,
I mean,
but
have you not seen people who try to,
expectations to be perfect at work.
well,
I mean,
you want to
unless you're like
perfectly put this event together.
landing airplanes. I
Right, I
mean,
know.
yeah. I
Well,
mean,
exactly. There's a few places in life where it's kind of got to be perfect. Like,
yeah,
right, flying an airplane with 300 people on board. Yeah,
right,
you want that to be perfect. You're trying to be perfect when you're at the Olympic level as an athlete, but even they don't do it all perfectly. It's who they're competing against. That would be the one place I would say maybe air quote perfectly. You'll have to land that plane perfectly. But we've been on many, many airplanes, but they didn't land it perfectly because man, that was
right.
a rough landing.
But
But they did it safely.
yeah,
They got us to our destination safely.
yeah. I when I was saying that, I was thinking more the guy or the employee in the tower that has to manage that, which isn't that one of the most stressful
Yeah,
positions you
the
can do?
air traffic
Yeah,
controllers.
like so that person has to be perfect.
Yeah, you and I talked about this on a walk a few weeks ago about what are the jobs we have to be perfect. I mean, I don't even know if it's a word perfect, but I get what you're saying. Like air traffic controller, a surgeon, a heart surgeon, a brain surgeon. Yeah, I mean, and that's why they have such high stressful jobs. And that's why I've always said they deserve all the money that they make. They make a lot of money. Yeah, they deserve all of it
Right,
because many, many of us couldn't handle the stress level that they just live under all the time.
right, right.
Because we're dealing with humans' lives, all these souls on board, right? But that's what 97% of the population you know,
Is not that.
is not an
Yeah,
airline
yeah,
pilot
yeah.
and is not carrying people in a
So I
tube in
think
the
for
sky.
the rest of us, I think it's us within our own head. And
You're right.
maybe coming up with a false narrative
We
of,
want to put on the perfect Christmas party. We want the
yeah,
perfect Christmas decorations. We want to put on the perfect event. We want to speak perfectly at the next staff meeting. You name it.
yeah,
And then when we don't do that, we get all up on our head. And then what really can go awry is when we start to really rip on ourselves. And that gets into worthiness, that gets into these self defeating thoughts and negative self talk.
yeah,
It can really be a problem. And with that, many times we don't speak of it to others. We don't tell people that horrible little demon on our shoulders, what it's saying to us. We don't talk about the internal suffering that's going on. We're trying to be a people pleaser all the time.
yeah. I think the thing that got me with this one is that the last part of that statement was they'll think less of me. Like, I would hope that no one is working in an environment where the expectation is perfection. And if you don't do it, you're going to be thought less of. Like, let's hope not,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
That's rough.
But they, and I say this all the time, I just did it to a client this morning. She's like, you said that to me a long time ago and I love it. I love it. And I remember it. I still think it to myself. I was saying to her, listen, nobody at work is thinking about you in the way that you are. Nobody.
That's fair.
We call it, it's Carl Rogers, unconditional positive regard for one another. They just have an unconditional positive regard for you. They don't know you in the beginning at all. Or when she was going to some networking event, she was really having a lot of anxiety and really all up in her head about showing up, air quote, perfectly and wanting to please the people around her. And I said to her, listen, nobody is thinking about you the way you're thinking about you. They just want to meet you and are interested and curious about you, want to get to know you. I said, listen, no one cares that much. No one really cares that much about you.
Right.
And she's like, that's so helpful. And that was a while ago. And she just said it to me this week. Actually, it was this morning. She said, I still say that to myself because that helps me. I say, let's say her name is Susie. Susie, no one cares. No one cares about you. And that way, it removes me a little bit from the idea that I have to be perfect and that I have to please everybody.
Yeah.
So it is helpful.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I actually use that for myself. I will say, no one cares. No one cares.
No one
It
cares.
helps. You're like,
Yeah.
oh, okay, then I can take this responsibility and this burden off my shoulders.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, they certainly don't care as much as you think. They probably care a little bit, but
Nowhere near what is going
yeah.
on in the mind of the person
Right,
who's a
right,
people
right. Makes
pleaser.
sense. That makes sense.
Okay. The next statement I hear quite a bit is, I should help because they need me. I should help. I should do this. I should do that. So, we consider that an unhelpful thought pattern or a thought distortion? So, what I would say to you, if you're someone who says should a lot, I'm going to tell you, don't should on yourself. All right. Write that down. Put that on a plaque somewhere. Write it on a sticky note. Put it on your bathroom mirror. Put it in the kitchen. Don't should on yourself. Stop saying should. Okay. So that is something that I even still do it. I have to work on that. That's one thought distortion I have to work on. Instead of using the word should, I want you to replace it with the word choose. I'm choosing to help because I think they need me, or I'm not choosing to help. Even though they might need me, I'm choosing not to help. It really changes the sentence and it changes the way you think about it in your head. Should really, it connotates some sort of like moral issue within you, the person, like, I should do this, but I'm not. It goes into worthiness. It goes into really, there's a great article I read on this 20 years ago about the shoulds and how what that really means for us is some sort of like moral depravity that we are less than. If I should write those thank you notes, I should have invited her. I should be doing more at work. Don't should on yourself. Shoulda, coulda, woulda. Instead, saying, I'm choosing to write that thank you note, or I'm not choosing to do that right now. I will choose to do it another day. I'm choosing to show up to work early because I want to, because I know they need help. So rather than I should go in early because I know they need help, I'm choosing to. I'm not. I'm choosing not to. And don't judge yourself, but know that you're making a choice. And that feels better because it feels like ownership. Now, for people pleasers, this can be a hard one. So you got to practice this over and over and over, but start with I'm choosing rather than I should. I should help because they need me. I'm choosing to help. They need me. I'm choosing. I feel good about this. I'm making the decision. I'm going to go help.
So I'm struggling with this one a little bit because I do say that. And I think it comes from a different place though for me. Like I do it, I should go do this or I should help and whatever, help set up this or whatever it is. But I'm thinking I'm coming from a place of like being the example, being the leader so that everyone else knows what the expectations are for everybody.
Okay, so but change it, Tim, and say I'm choosing because
Yeah.
when you use the word choose, it moves you into a place of empowerment, like cognitive empowerment, and it makes you more intentional in your decisions. So you're that's fine, but take should out and put in choose,
Yeah. It's good
and it feels
advice.
different because you're like, okay, so that's an intentional decision on my part. That feels really different
Yeah.
than the guilt of the shoulds because I'm a people pleaser. I don't really want to do this, but I should go help with dinner. Okay. Well, I mean, I know that this can be a hard one because sometimes it is like, well, you should go help with dinner. Move into, I'm going to go help with dinner. I'm choosing to do that. I'm going to.
Yeah.
Or,
I choose to do it and I'm doing it because this is my agenda,
right,
right? Like I have an agenda, which is valid, and I'm not doing it because I should do it. I'm doing it because I choose to
right.
do it.
And if
All
you,
right. I'm
and
with
if
you.
you choose not to do something and someone gets mad at you, all right, then you need to sit with that.
It's important to me that the supplements I take are of the highest quality. And that's why for 5 years, I've been drinking AG1. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. I know I can trust what's in every scoop of AG1 because it's tested for 950 contaminants and banned substances, while the industry standard typically only tests for 10. Taking care of my health shouldn't be complicated, and AG1 simplifies this by covering my nutritional basis and setting myself up for success in just 60 seconds. AG1's ingredients are heavily researched for efficacy and quality, and I love that every scoop also includes prebiotics, probiotics, and digestive enzymes for gut support. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1 and get a free 1 year supply of vitamin D3 plus K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription at drinkag1.com/Anna. That's drinkag1.com/Anna. Check it out. You will not regret it.
So I'm going to take a break right here, real quickly, before we move into the next few and just really reach out to all of you and let you know I have some openings in January for coaching. No matter where you are in the world, I can coach you. If you need therapy, that will be in the state of Illinois in the United States. So come talk to me. You know, reach out to me. Hello at Anna Marcolene. Let's get on a call together and let's see, like I always say, if I'd be a good fit for you. I'm taking almost 30 years of psychotherapy and coaching practice and sharing with you all the good stuff. So you're getting an overview on this podcast of how I work and my skills. But when you work with me one on one and even in a coaching setting, that's very different. You're getting a lot more and it's curated for you. Okay. So come talk to me. Don't hesitate. And I would love to get on a call with you and get to know you and see if I would be a good fit for you. Okay. All right. Okay. So the next one is that I hear is if I really say what it is I want, if I express my thoughts and my feelings, it's going to make things awkward. So people pleasing is easier for me because I stay quiet, even though I do have thoughts and I do have feelings about this situation, but I'm just going to be quiet because I don't want to make it awkward or I don't want to get them mad. I don't want to make them mad at me. Yeah.
That was what
I know you know this one.
number one or two on your list, I think. But that's true. That is true. You take the path of least resistance, in your opinion.
But do
right?
you know that it's really a form of dishonesty when you stay quiet? When you work on getting honest with people, first of all, most people respect it and you move into a deeper relationship with people, a deeper sense of intimacy. It's really good for a relationship. And if they can't handle what it is that you're expressing or what your thoughts are, your feelings, then I think it moves you into behooving if that's a relationship you want to be in.
Yeah.
You start to find out who your friends are.
Yeah.
Most people, colleagues and friends and family members are like, yeah, I'm glad you said that. Okay, we can do that too.
Yeah.
You never say anything. You never say where you want to go eat dinner. You never have an opinion.
Right.
I'm glad that you have an opinion. Express what it is you want.
Right. Right.
I know that this is a hard one for people. I mean, I know from so many conversations around this, and it's so important to try it in little ways. And you can start with little ways by having small preferences. Start by saying, "Hey, I'd love to go to Taco Bell tonight." You know, not McDonald's. Like start with little ones. Start with small things. I'd like to eat at 5:30 rather than at 6. That's little ways that you start to find your voice. And it really is moving out of people pleasing because you're saying what you want and you need.
Yeah.
And I think so many times we just don't want to sit with discomfort. We don't want to sit with what comes up for us or what might come up for us. It's learning to, and I've talked about this before. I mean, this is mental toughness. It's learning to sit in discomfort and sit in the icky, the scratchy feelings of they're going to get mad, they're going to get mad. You would be surprised they don't get mad. People around you don't really get mad. And if they do, which is probably less than 1%, they're not meant for you.
Yeah.
Most people are like, yeah, okay, fine.
Good idea. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm thinking about, so you and I had a situation that this is exactly what happened, 2-3 weeks ago with some friends. Like there was some pretty intense conversations about some things.
Yeah.
And then there's certain people in the group that the tendency is they are the ones that kind of drive the conversation. It just happens to be the case, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And there's others that don't jump in. There's some that never jump in.
Right.
Some will jump in occasionally. And I just remember that particular night, this exact thing that you're describing happened. And I think for me, it's not always the case, but there are moments. Usually it's dependent upon the group I'm with, whether it's a friend group, a family group, a work group, whatever.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
I was in it too.
Yeah. And it's like, you
Yeah.
know that when you say something out loud, that there's going to be.
Well, you were revealing a little bit more about now this is a political issue, so we'll just say that.
Yeah.
And it was right before the election. You were expressing opinions about things that you are pretty quiet about. I mean, you and I don't talk about this issue even very much with each other. And you had a different thought, a different opinion. You were asking some questions, and I think it was being met with some resistance that you were just even asking questions.
Right.
And I was asking questions too. And I think that, yeah, if I say what I want, if I say what I think, if I say how I feel, it's going to make things awkward. And yes, it kind of did get a little awkward. But my thought around that is, and this goes back to the whole like politics in this country and people saying, if you disagree with each other, get rid of your friends. I totally, and I said it last week's episode, I totally wholeheartedly disagree with that. I think because we're older and we're going into the more the sunset of our lives, and our friends and our family are very important to us. And at the end of the day, I don't really care about people's politics. I love the people in my life. And I walked away from that conversation as I think you and I talked about it later and thought, you know what, if they're going to be weird towards us, then it would be very painful and very hard to sit with. And we would have had some things revealed to us about what kind of friendship we really did have.
Sure.
Because it's the one time you and I actually asked questions and spoke up about things we don't really talk about. And we weren't on the totally other side of the fence with them. We just were asking some questions. And I think that they are big enough and mature enough and have enough emotional intelligence to allow for that. But because we haven't seen them since then, but I don't think it'll be a problem. So we're at our age and it still is like, oh my gosh, like
It's in your head.
more for you than me because
Yeah.
you're really quieter about things. I'm much more outspoken, am comfortable having difficult conversations. It was hard for you. And I saw it was hard for you. And I think that, but those are all notches towards moving into not people pleasing. We got to have those hard conversations. We got to sit with the discomfort. We don't want it to ruin a friendship. That would be terrible. But
Right.
that I think would say more about them than you and I.
Right.
But yeah, it's a risk that you take. It's a risk that we all have to take to move out of people pleasing. And one further thing on that is it's not what we say. It's oftentimes it's how we say it to each other. It's the delivery of the message.
It's the emotion or the lack of emotion in it.
It's the
yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I would say this to when I was doing couples work. I'd say this to my couples all the time. There's not much that you can't say to one another. It's how you say it. It's the delivery of the message. It's choosing your words, watching the tone in your voice, watching when and where you're having this conversation. Probably not when someone's needing a diaper change and someone's having a meltdown because they want mac and cheese for dinner, or you're walking out the door because you got to pick somebody up from cheerleading. Think about when you're having these conversations, but most importantly, watch your tone and watch how you deliver it and use I statements. Say you. You want to get someone's back up and you want to see a conversation, devolve very
that'll do it.
quickly, you do that.
That'll do it for sure.
So this is a practice, like yoga is a practice. Meditation is a practice. This is a practice. So these are your steps to move out of people pleasing. Okay. So next one that I hear quite a bit is if I feel like I'm getting taken advantage of and it's my fault because I don't say anything. And that's a terrible feeling. Like they're taking advantage of me. She, he, they are taking advantage of me. And it's my fault because I don't say anything. And that really goes into self-blame and worthiness. That's really about, to me, it's a lack of worthiness and self-blame. Once you start to shift that narrative, you can move into empowerment. Okay, that's important. You have a right to assert yourself without feeling guilty. You have a right, okay? What you want to do is you want to work on strengthening your inner boundaries and finding your voice. And what I'll do is I'll role play assertive statements with my clients. Well, actually, we'll do a role play. I will be that person in particular that they're struggling with, and we'll role play. And it does help. I know sometimes it feels like kind of corny in the beginning. Clients are like, all right, I'm going to role play right now, either live in person or on Zoom. But then we get into it and they get into it. And like I'm their boss or I'm their spouse or I'm their whatever, their sister. And they practice using assertive statements. It really does work. I mean, I did this in undergrad in my social work and psychology, more in social work.
That would
classes.
that'd be a good exercise.
Yeah. Or you can do the empty chair exercise, which is a big one in counseling in undergrad and graduate school, the empty chair. So do the empty chair exercise where you actually practice talking to somebody in the chair, put a chair opposite you, imagine that person you got to talk to. Why are you smiling?
I'm just thinking about this.
It works. Don't laugh at it. It works. You've never done it.
Keep your window shades closed. People are going to start talking about you.
You're crazy.
What's wrong with that lady?
Little loony. Okay, well, close your blinds. But it does work. So, practice talking and do it when you're, people will think you're a little they will think, what's going on in there? Who are you talking to? Who are you talking to in there? But it does work. So either, my clients will role play with me, or you can do the empty chair exercise and role play by yourself and practice. I mean, you don't talk out really loud, but just quietly say what you want to say to that person in an assertive way. Okay?
I think that's huge because then you hear yourself say it. Like it's one thing to like in your head say it, But when it comes out your mouth and your ears hear it, you're
Right.
like, oh, okay, that's what it sounds like when I'm going to say it.
This can transform relationships because what it does is it encourages mutual respect and it's encouraging the person to respect you. We don't know that they don't, but if you're feeling taken advantage of, maybe at some level they're taking advantage of you because you never say no because you're a people pleaser. There are people who are not people pleasers. They see that in you and they know that you're not going to, they'll take advantage of you. They know you won't say no.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal when someone stand up and you say, I can't do that right now. And no, I'm not available for that. I can't help you. Talk to Joe. Maybe Joe's available, or I can't host that night. And it's like, oh, wow. Like he or she's really, they're finding their voice in a good way, not in a sarcastic way, but in a good way. And even if it's in a sarcastic way, so be it. Let them have that.
Yeah.
You're standing up for yourself.
Yeah.
Okay. So role playing and working on your dialogue and what you, or I'm sorry, your monologue and what you might say is really important. Okay. Another one that I hear quite a bit is I'm really only of value and of worth if I'm useful to other people. So think about that in your life. And I'm really only of value.
If I'm
Yeah.
useful.
This is about self belief.
Wow.
This is about if you're useful to others, that really goes into love languages. That's you. So you're somebody who does like to do acts of service for others. But what can happen is you start to think, yeah, they only care about me. I'm only valuable to them because of all of my acts of service that I do for them because I'm a people pleaser and I enjoy doing it. But now I'm not enjoying doing it anymore. I'm getting tired of it. I'm getting resentful. I'm getting sick of it because of everything else I've said so far. They're taking advantage of me. And what that does is it behooves you to really look on your self esteem and how you value yourself as an individual, a worthy individual outside of what you do for others.
Hmm.
Okay.
Okay.
So it's really important that you move into identifying, personal qualities of yours and your strengths that exist inside of you, independent of what you do for other people. Just your unconditional worth of you just being on this planet, you as a human being, that there is value to just who you are as a person. And your value doesn't come along with what you do for others. Really, really important work.
Yeah.
So if this is something that resonates for you, that I would encourage you to really move into doing some work around self-worth and self-esteem.
I like it.
Okay.
That's good advice,
Yeah.
actually.
And another one that I hear quite a bit is I'm just going to pretend I'm okay so that other people will not worry about me. I'm going to pretend I'm okay. I'm going to say I'm fine. I'm going to say okay so that my mom won't worry, my dad won't worry, my boyfriend, my girlfriend, my spouse, my friends won't worry about me. Okay. So, you letting people know that you're not okay, that's really you moving into a place of vulnerability. So the job for the people pleaser is to work on being vulnerable to others. That's a form of strength. That's not a weakness. That's a form of strength. You know, practice sharing your feelings. You can practice this in safe, low risk situations to help you build your confidence. So you can do that with, a real trusted person who you feel safe around. Maybe it's your mom, someone in your spouse, your paramour, boyfriend, girlfriend. Okay. So practice in situations where if you feel safe, practice sharing your feelings and getting vulnerable with people. Okay. And over time, what you see is that sharing your feelings really can foster connections rather than it doesn't burden other people. People want to know you, they want to know about you. And being vulnerable and being authentic, we all pick up on that. We have humans have a radar for authenticity in others. So
Absolutely.
yeah. And if you always pretend you're okay, and use the word pretend, people pick up on that. And what happens is people will or can kind of back away from you because you never show the real side. You never show the authentic side. You never show the side of you. Life is not all about Pollyanna. Remember the old movie Pollyanna? She was always like, it's all great. Well, that's toxic positivity and it's fake and it's kind of bullshit. And we all see it.
Yeah.
If this is something that you do that you don't want to show people your real side because you're a people pleaser, I really encourage you. That might be the number one thing I'd have you do is work on showing the vulnerable side of you in low risk, safe situations.
And so with this one too, when you're air quotes okay, could it also be defined as you're okay with what's going on? Like you're okay with the scenario of the conversation or the decision that was going to be made? Not necessarily I'm okay. It could be that I'm okay inside myself, but it also could be that I'm okay mentally with whatever is happening? Can we assume that or not so much?
I'm not following what you mean.
So I'm okay. I'm okay. Like
Are you
I
saying that? Are you really not though? You're pretending to be okay just because you don't want to make waves or stir the pot
well, I'm just asking, can
because
it?
you want to please the people around you?
Yeah, but my
It's
question is, can it be that like I'm okay, like I'm physically okay, like everything about me is okay, or it could also be like I'm okay. I'm not really, but I'm okay with this conversation, even though I don't like it or I don't like the tone of it. But I'll just say that I'm okay with it. Like I'm okay with that
what's your point in not saying anything? Are you trying?
because you're a people pleaser.
No, I would
Yeah.
say to work on that.
Well,
I mean, you
absolutely.
pick your spots. I mean,
Yeah.
there are times like you and I were just talking about this, and I know I've done this too. Like I'm a people pleaser, and I have stayed quiet in my family of origin. They'll get into big debates around politics, and I don't get into them because to me, it's not that I'm a people pleaser. It's just not worth my time. Like I get tired of these conversations. So that's a different thing. I'm not trying to people please. I have one family member who's very strong in what they think and they feel. And it may look sometimes, and I've thought this to myself, am I trying to be a people pleaser by not saying anything to this person? No, maybe partially. But most of it is that I don't want to get into this.
Yeah.
I don't want to get into this debate because a smart person's really intelligent. It's gonna be like, well, what have you read and what do you know? And I'm like, I don't want to do this because I'm not really good at arguing and debating all the time on my feet about like, well, I read this study and I read that article in the Atlantic and the New York Times said this and Washington Post said that and this is what and this podcast. Like, I don't. I'm that's it.
That's a
It becomes
skill,
it's a
right?
skill, and
Yeah.
she's a great debater. I'm not really great at that all the time. So am I trying to please her? Not really. If I feel strongly about something, I will speak up. That's different. I don't have the energy and I find it exhausting.
Yeah.
I find politics in this country exhausting in the last, how many years, 8 to 12 years now. We didn't do this in the 90s so much, even the early 2000s when I grew up. We didn't talk like this. It's like, oh my God. Like, so that's different. What you're asking is, I think you pick your spots. People pleasing is so to wrap this all up, when I think of people pleasing and all the clients I've had, the conversations I've had over all these years, people pleasers, they have thoughts, they have opinions, they have feelings. They keep them tamped down because they want to please the people around them. So they put themselves aside for those around them. That's people pleasing. I'm not tamping myself down because I'm intimidated or I want to please the person who I'm having a debate with. It's a waste of time. It's exhausting to me and I don't want to do it. I haven't lost myself to him or her. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
So that's how I want you to think about people pleasing. Let's go through it real quickly again. So, what are some of the things I have heard over all of these years that people pleasers will say to me? I can't say no because they're going to be mad at me. Work on that. I'm just going to go along to keep the peace. I'm going to go along to get along. That's people pleasing. It's got to be perfect or people around me, they're going to think less of me. Not true. I should this, should that. Don't should on yourself. Okay. Write that down. Remember it. Don't should on yourself. Use shoes instead. If I say what I want, it's going to be awkward. People are going to get mad at me. It's going to make the situation weird and awkward. So I'll just stay quiet. That's what I've always done. No, we got to work on ways for you to start finding your voice and speaking up for what you want. Do it in small ways, like what you want for dinner tonight, what restaurant you want to go to. The next one is I feel like I get taken advantage of by the people around me, but it's my fault because I don't say anything. So now you're getting down on yourself. You got to move from self blame into empowerment. Next one is I'm really only valuable and of worth if I'm useful to the people around me. I always want to be a useful person. That's okay to a certain extent, but people pleasers, they'll take that to the nth degree. Okay. And the next one is I'm just going to pretend that I'm okay. I'm not going to tell the truth so that people won't worry around me. There you go. Again, I think it's really important to find ways of making yourself vulnerable to people, find safe spaces, safe people, work on vulnerability. Okay. So once you start to become really aware of your inner thoughts that you have as a people pleaser, that's the first step in transforming your behavior. So first, I want you to become aware of your people pleasing thoughts. Then you move into changing your behavior. Okay. I know that it's easy for me to say it, and it's another thing for you to do. I know it's easier for you you can understand your people pleasing thoughts. I know it's difficult to move into behavior, and it's imperative that you do it. So you work in small ways to change your behavior to move out of people pleasing. Okay. Once you start to really understand yourself, your people pleasing behaviors, you can then move into really working on healthier form of self expression. And that is working on your boundaries and really working on building confidence in your value as a human being, your value as a person, and that it's completely separate and divorced from people pleasing.
I like it.
All right, everyone, subscribe, rate, and review the podcast. Please do it. It makes all the difference in the world. I'm trying to move up the rankings, and I would so appreciate that. And if you find this to be of value, share it with someone who needs to hear it. People pleasing is a real big issue today, and reach out to me. Come talk to me. Until next time.
Easy for you to say.
Yeah. Mad love.
All right.